We begin the episode commentary for episode 86. In the nick of time, Wanglin used an extreme spirit stone to self-detonate to forcefully raise the pressure. The Yuanshen fragments gradually coalesced, and his cultivation broke through at a rapid pace, soaring all the way from the late stage of foundation establishment to the peak of the middle stage of Wanying. The spirit vein was rapidly depleted due to the crazy surge of spirit power, and the entire mountain peak was reduced to a waste vein. The outer disciples noticed the disappearance of spiritual energy and fled the cave. However, Wanglin instantly moved out from the bottom of the mountain peak and stood outside the mountain, causing the crowd to be stunned. The big man hurriedly lifted the restraints with a respectful attitude. A beautiful woman in the distance nodded her head slightly, but Wanglin swept his eyes coldly and had no time to pay attention. At this moment, he sensed the experience of the cycle of life and death, and his Yuanshen was initially collected, and he had already recovered to be usable, and his cultivation had risen significantly. The unusual change in the mountain peak drew the attention of the inner gate of the soul refining sect, and 3 figures then flew out. One of them, a white-haired old man, snapped, "All shut up." The surroundings were instantly silent. The old man's gaze was like a torch as he asked, "Where is Liu Fulin?" No one answered. He frowned slightly and flew into the depths of the mountain peak with his 2 companions to investigate. Liu Fulin was the middle-aged man who had previously caused trouble due to greed. The 3 old men, on the other hand, were inner disciples of the soul refining sect who also served as peripheral deacons. Wanglin's eyes flickered as he secretly observed the situation of these 3. The old man's cultivation reached the early stage of Yen Yang, and the remaining 2 were both in the late stage of Jiedan. A few moments later, the old man flew out alone, his face somber, his eyes full of doubt and shock. He found that the mountain's spiritual veins had completely dried up, and the spiritual ore was shattered at the touch of a button, and the spiritual energy was instantly sucked out. This kind of bizarre phenomenon had never happened since the opening of the soul refining sect. The old man ordered the peripheral disciples to cultivate in place and not to leave without authorization. He then sacrificed a jade sword and flew back to the inner sect to ask for help. The crowd of disciples looked shocked and uncertain, but only Wanglin sat on his knees on top of a large tree, exhaling and regulating his breathing, looking calm. The old man swept his gaze over the crowd, but didn't linger on Wanglin. He thought that Wanglin was just a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator and wasn't enough to worry about. However, Wanglin's Yuanshen had recovered slightly, and no one would be able to see through his true cultivation unless he was a spirit transformation stage cultivator. Soon, more than a dozen sword lights flew out from the inner gate of the soul refining sect, and more than 10 people descended on the scene. 5 of them were Wanying stage cultivators, and the rest of them were mid-Jiedan stage at the weakest. The middle-aged scribe at the head had a cultivation level of late Yen Ying stage, and his body was surrounded by a gloomy and cold aura, as if he was haunted by countless grievous souls, which made people shudder. He asked the old man in a cold voice about the situation. The old man respectfully reported that the mountain peak spirit vein was destroyed, and suspected that it was related to the peripheral disciples. The middle-aged scribe immediately ordered, "Seal off the surrounding area and kill anyone who moves." He then took the old man and flew back to the inner sect to meet the patriarch. Wanglin looked calm and secretly weighed the pros and cons. Although he could call out the literary beasts to escape, he was unwilling to easily give up the cultivation resources here. The heavenly reversal pearl still couldn't be taken out. So he decided to wait and see what happened. As the day dawned, the middle-aged scribe reappeared with 9 red-robed cultivators. These red-robed cultivators were surrounded by ghosts, emitting a purple-black devil flame-like aura. The middle-aged scribe ordered, "Divide the thousands of peripheral disciples into 10 groups, each responsible for a group, and inspect them one by one." The red-robed cultivator cast a red aura to envelop the crowd of disciples and forcefully group them together. The inspection process did not ask questions and only used a finger to tap the center of the eyebrow to probe the memory. Wanglin was placed in the third group and was calm on the surface, with no abnormalities. During the inspection process, a Green Mountain cultivator tried to escape, but was easily captured by the red-robed cultivator. Dozens of other disciples were taken out one by one and thrown into the open space to be disposed of because they had evil intentions. The red-robed cultivator in charge of the third group did not find any abnormalities after nudging Wanglin in the center of his eyebrow. So he turned around and left. Wanglin secretly sighed in relief and continued his disguise. In the end, out of the thousands of peripheral disciples, more than 100 were left in the clearing, waiting to be disposed of. The disciples who passed the inspection were assigned to other mountain peaks to cultivate. Wanglin was assigned to a shorter peak and entered the cave alone. He sat on his knees and secretly pondered. Although spirit vein absorption can quickly restore cultivation, it's extremely risky and will easily attract the attention of spirit transformation stage cultivators. Wanglin speculated that there was a main vein on the inner gate of this soul refining sect, so if he could find an opportunity to absorb it, he would be able to completely recover his cultivation. He decided to hibernate for the time being and wait for an opportunity to escape by tearing through the void with the star compass if necessary. The June Grand competition was approaching, and this was the best opportunity for the peripheral disciples of the soul refining sect to step into the inner sect. It was rumored that the soul refining sect possessed a soul streamer, which was the most valuable treasure of the sect, condensing more than 100 million souls and changing the color of the sky and the earth when it was flipped, and it could be called the top treasure on the Vermilion Bird planet. In addition, the soul refining sect uses the refining of soul streamers as its core technique, and although many Vermilion Bird star cultivators are proficient in the art of alchemy, they are still not as good as the soul refining sect. If you can master this path and refine streamers with wandering souls, their power may be comparable to mirror streamers. Wanglin woke up from his seclusion and his cultivation had recovered to the middle stage of Yandying. He took out a piece of immortal jade with a missing corner, broke off a small piece and took it, forcing it to impact the seal. Intense pain hit him, but he bore it silently. Meanwhile, in a hidden valley in Chu Spring was in full bloom, Juru rode on a black-striped tiger, little white, laughing crisply. Salbai's face was full of helplessness, recalling the 1 year of being tortured by this little witch. Taiyan sat on his knees under the pagoda, looking kindly at Cho-Ru, firmly believing that his benefactor Wanglin would be able to overcome the danger. On the other side, Liwa lazily basked in the sun, recalling the years of fighting in the land of the ancient gods and the scene where Wanglin took him away. What he missed more was that mosquito. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, June arrived. This was the day of the soul refining sect's outer disciple competition, where 10,000 disciples would only choose one to become an inner disciple. Wanglin opened his eyes and got up. His eyes were like stars shining, and there were only 8 T-marks left on his face. The seals had contracted, but they hadn't been completely lifted. He sensed the meaning of life and death in the reincarnation heavenly Tao and realized the complex relationship between life and death. His multiple life and death experiences had changed his mindset, and he vaguely sensed the opportunity to break through to the late stage of transformation, but he still needed to find the key point. Wanglin walked out of the cave as the mountain wind blew by. He recalled Li Yanfang's powerful intent and lamented the limitations of the intent at the God transformation stage. When he thought of the scripture of the Inquirer given by his seniors in the Immortal realm, he secretly sighed that the Inquirer stage was out of reach. The current seal had not been lifted. The infant transformation was hopeless, and it was difficult to rival the powerhouses on the heavenly fortune star in terms of cultivation. Suddenly, Wanglin noticed a woman watching him in the distance. He flashed and came to the cave where the woman was. The woman called herself Willow Eyebrows and mentioned past events in an attempt to jog Wanglin's memory. However, Wanglin responded indifferently. "Don't recognize." Willow Eyebrows sighed lightly and revealed between smiles, "I'm a disciple of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom." However, Wanglin had already seen it from the bracelet he was wearing and sneered. "Your bracelet, I've seen it on Red Butterfly," he said, and drifted away. Lume looked at Wanglin's back and whispered, "I haven't seen him for 500 years. He's no longer the teenager he was back then. Nowadays, he's as firm as iron. Just what exactly is his Tao heart?" Wanglin's Tao heart was so deep and unfathomable that no one was able to peek into it except for himself. Facing the appearance of Willow Eyebrows, Wanglin was gloomy and uneasy inside. He felt that the Vermilion Bird Kingdom was like an invisible mountain that loomed over the Vermilion Bird Star, and the oppression was everywhere. The higher his cultivation level, the more obvious this oppression became. Although the alienation of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom was short-lived, that invisible sense of crisis was deeply embedded in Wanglin's memory, like a black curtain that shrouded the sky and earth. The only way to free it was for a sharp sword to break through the curtain. And in Wanglin's eyes, this new overlord of the Vermilion Bird Star had already lost its vitality and was heading for the end. 2 days later, the Soul Refining Sect's Outer Disciple Competition officially began. Tens of thousands of disciples participated in it, both casual cultivators and people from cultivation families. The rules of the competition are extremely cruel. As long as you win, you can live or die. And even rumor has it that the more people you kill, the more likely you are to enter the inner sect. Every time the competition is held, less than half of the disciples survive, and the souls of the dead are absorbed by the Soul Refining Sect's Soul Streamer, which becomes the foundation of the sect's strength. Wanglin noticed in his observation that the battlefield platform would devour the soul of every fallen disciple. Finally, his first battle came. The opponent was a short, fat cultivator in the late Foundation establishment stage who attacked with a fireball spell. But Wanglin only casually waved his hand to make him faint and fall to the ground. 7 days later, there were only 100 disciples left out of the tens of thousands of disciples. Most of them died in the fight, and a few chose to give up or were killed by both. During this period, 4 disciples attracted the attention of the Soul Refining Sect. The first was a gray-haired old man with late Chadin cultivation, who chopped the enemy along the way with a death spell. The second was a teenager at the early stage of Chadin, who predicted the enemy's spells in advance by virtue of his keen intuition of spiritual fluctuations. The third was the 743 Cave Dahan, who was familiar to Wanglin, who relied on a talismanic paper magic weapon to sweep away countless people. And the fourth was Wanglin, who attracted many gazes with his method of not killing the enemy. After another 7 days, the 100 people were eliminated once again, and in the end, there were only 4 people left. It was those 4 strikingly strong people. When Wanglin fought against the 743 Cave Dahan, his opponent directly conceded defeat and left the stage due to the prohibition in his body. The gray-haired old man easily defeated the young man with his death spell, and the young man was saved by the spirit light of the Soul Refining Sect when he was on the verge of death. This is the end of the Outer Disciple competition. Only Wanglin and gray-haired old man Sima, 2 people duel, the next day to start. Sima had been practicing this spell for many years in order to win today. After becoming an inner disciple, he believed that he could break through the junction cause. His master teacher had once said, "This incantation was created to mimic the extreme end, and if cultivated to the extreme, it can even touch a hint of the extreme end's power." The duel began. Sima's gaze was grim as he pointed a finger with his right hand and shouted lowly, "One life, one death." The power of the spell art surged towards Wanglin like a tidal wave, and the battle instantly erupted. The death spell art was a divine ability created by ancient cultivators imitating the extreme, although it was not as powerful as the extreme. It could be controlled. Once cultivated, only the word death is needed to instantly kill the target. However, this art is difficult to cultivate. It requires the collection of 3 qi, death qi xing, and killing qi. The deadly qi comes from the bones of a corpse, the yen qi comes from the female yin, and the killing qi requires the experience of life and death combat. After the fusion of the 3 qi, the cultivator needs to undergo 9 deaths and 1 life of hardening. Even after completion, they still need to endure severe pain and face elimination every 3 years. Despite its power, this spell was gradually abandoned due to the high risk involved in its cultivation. Sima cast this spell, using the word death as a guide. The void ripples spread and attacked Wanglin. However, Wanglin, with his powerful strength, was able to solidify and dissipate the strange power of this spell with just 1 thought. The spell backfired, and Sama fell to the ground with serious injuries and was recovered by the sect's aura. Wanglin easily won and became the champion of the grand competition. After the competition, inner disciple Wang Jin brought Wanglin into the inner gate of the soul refining sect. The inner gate called itself Heaven and Earth, and the 3 giant peaks were where the soul refining, prana drawing, and god-locking sects were located, while the 9 golden rings were the places of retreat for the 9 god transformation cultivators. Wang Jin introduced the clan to Wanglin and mentioned that the soul refining sect had a spirit transformation cultivator who died at the hands of Zhenyu, and Zhenyu was Wanlin's pseudonym. Wanglin didn't say anything about this, but he was vaguely suspicious in his heart. When he entered the main hall of Soul Refining Peak, Wanglin met the Grand Elder, who was in the late Yuanying stage. After testing Wanlin's cultivation, he was satisfied with his performance and allowed him to freely cultivate within Soul Refining Peak, and told him that there was no master-disciple system within the clan, and that cultivators were required to comprehend the techniques on their own. Afterwards, Wanglin received his disciple's clothes and token, and went to the scripture cabinet to select a technique. Inside the main hall, 2 powerful divine senses talked to the Grand Elder, mentioning the complex situation within the soul refining sect. Although the Great Elder had reservations about Wanglin, he did not stop him from joining. Wanglin secretly observed and realized that the soul refining sect was currently controlled by 3 late Yenjing cultivators, while the god-realizing cultivators were all in seclusion. He had a plan in mind and continued to keep a low profile within Soul Refining Peak, waiting for the right time. The Soul Refining Peak Scripture Pavilion only had 3 floors and looked ordinary. Wanglin stepped into it and found a dry, thin old man sitting inside. This person's cultivation was close to being a Yuanjing, only by a hair. The old man had a yellowish face and lazily raised his eyes to ask for a token, confirming it and informing Wanglin, except for the 3rd layer, which is inaccessible. The rest of the place can be flipped through at will for a limit of 3 days. Wanglin entered the 1st floor and realized that there was a wide variety of gong methods here, but there were no methods for refining soul streamers. He then went up to the 2nd floor, where there were fewer jade sketches and they were scattered. One of the jade slips labeled Soul Streamer Making attracted his attention. However, Wanglin realized that its content was no different from the common refining methods in the outside world, which was obviously not enough to support the soul refining sect's reputation. Failing to find the complete method, Wanglin turned his attention to the 3rd floor. He returned to the 1st floor and asked the old man, "Why is it forbidden to enter the 3rd floor?" The old man responded impatiently, "If you can't go up, you can't go up." Seeing Wanglin's cold gaze, the old man mocked, "The soul refining sect has no order, so if you want the complete soul streamer making jade slip, go grab it." And he pointed to a cave, implying that there might be something needed there. Wanglin smiled faintly and then struck out. The old man was grabbed and slammed hard against the stone wall, begging for forgiveness, and finally admitted, "Wanglin is powerful, so I suggest that he go directly to snatch it." Wanglin didn't respond and turned around to leave for the cave. There was a prohibition on the outside of the cave mansion, but it instantly collapsed under Wanglin's attack. The owner of the cave mansion, a late-stage Jaddan cultivator, was furious and offered a soul streamer to summon hundreds of souls to attack Wanglin. These spirits had extraordinary power, and there were even a few that emitted the pressure of a Jaddan cultivator. So it was clear that the soul streamer possessed the magical ability to make the spirits grow. Wanglin easily seized the soul streamer, erased the other party's divine sense, and refined it, and the soul was then sucked into the streamer. The cave master was shocked at the situation and hastily admitted defeat, hand over the black jade slip and all the items in the cave, even the untouched concubine, and ask for mercy. Wanglin didn't kill him, but took the jade slip. After checking the contents, he realized that this was the true soul-refining sect's soul streamer technique, but it still had flaws. The two female cultivators in the cave came out and called themselves Shuyun and Senior Sister, explaining, "The soul-refining sect's soul streamer production method is divided into 3 parts: refining the soul, extracting the prana, and locking the god. And the combination of all 3 is what makes it complete." Wanglin did not respond and turned to leave. The 2 women decided to follow, but were chased back by Wanglin's cold voice. Wanglin eventually chose a place below Soul Refining Peak that was close to a spirit vein to open a cave. After entering the cave, he went deeper into the spiritual vein and found that the depths of the spiritual vein were shrouded in black mist. The spiritual energy was constantly being absorbed. The divine sense couldn't penetrate the black mist, and the black mist was vaguely filled with miserable screams, revealing the figures of souls. When he realized that there was a restriction on the periphery of the black fog, Wanglin's complexion suddenly changed. He recognized that this restriction was an ancient soul mirror, and his heart shook. Ancient soul mirror is one of the rarest of the ancient restrictions. Using the soul as a mirror, it is unpredictable and its power is far beyond the ordinary. Prohibitions are ordinary and static like dead things, requiring a fixed way to break them, while soul mirrors are like living things, essentially a soul that survives in a static form. Wanglin appeared next to the ancient soul mirror. The black fog rolled over, and 2 ghostly lights suddenly lit up. A roar that shook the Yanshen ensued, carrying an obvious warning. Wanglin stepped back, his gaze heavy, and surmised, "There must be a treasure here." He strangled and cast a spell, and the remnant stood still like a long dragon rushing into the black fog, triggering an even stronger roar that shook his soul. The black fog quickly coalesced and transformed into a demonic beast with 2 horns on its head and black fog all over its body, which was guarding a small golden flag inserted on the ground, from which the black fog was diffusing out. The demonic beast lunged at Wanglin, but he instantly dodged it. It was confirmed that this beast was not a Keelan, but one of the souls in the soul streamers of the soul refining sect, and its strength was about equal to the early stage of the transformation spirit. Wanglin was temporarily unable to subdue this beast, but instead Saturday on his knees and began to think about the connection between the soul refining sect's soul streamer and the ancient soul mirror. Time was like water, and the outside of the cave where Wanglin was refreshed. The 2 women, Shuyun and Li Wei, had carefully decorated the place and profited a lot from proclaiming Wanglin's fame. However, Shuyun was worried. This move will lead to trouble. One day, an early Yanjing cultivator Guodonglan visited, claiming to be looking for Wanglin to catch up. Shuyun and Li Wei falsely claimed that they were Wanglin's concubines, but were rebuked by Guodonglan. Guodonglan forcibly tries to explore the cave, waving his sword and casting spells to turn a green dragon to attack the cave, but is countered by the prohibition. Wanglin appeared, and the black gas behind him coalesced into a huge skull that shocked the entire audience. Facing Wanglin, Wanglin bluntly demanded its hand over the soul streamer. Wanglin was not willing to show weakness and offered his soul streamer to summon many souls, including even a two-legged soul that exuded the aura of a Yanjing. Wanglin performed a soul spin and instantly absorbed most of the souls, even though some of the souls tried to break free and escape. They were eventually forcefully recaptured by Wanglin. He questioned the source of the cause living soul. Wanglin helplessly informed. The souls were exchanged for 100 rounds of 900 souls from the drawing and breaking seal Su Jingxi. Wanglin sighed. Wanglin used only 3 months to cultivate Soul Xuan. It can be called the third successor of the soul refining peak. During these 3 months, Wanglin had utilized the pressure of the spirit veins to cultivate his cultivation to the Yuning realm, just waiting for a Yuanshen to recover. He would be able to return to the realm of the transformation spirit. There were only 3 T-marks left on his face, and Sun Tai's seal was on the verge of collapsing. However, the biggest gain during this period of time was sensing that the soul-refining peak. By studying the soul-refining jade slip, Wanglin gradually grasped the 3 main methods of the soul streamer: soul refining, soul extraction, and god locking. Soul refining was refining the dead and sealing them in the soul streamer to make them grow. Extracting the prana was extracting the living soul from the living body and manipulating it. And the mystery of locking the god had yet to be fully penetrated. Soul streamers are divided into 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 soul streamers according to the number of souls. 1,000 soul streamers needed to be supported by the main soul, and its strength determined the power of the soul streamer. Wanglin speculated that the unicorn-like demonic beast deep within the spirit vein was precisely the main soul of the golden soul streamer. Within 3 months, he had repeatedly fought with the soul streamer deep within the spirit vein for souls, and with his flexibility, he managed to obtain 90% of the souls, which included an early-stage Yuanying soul that formed the main soul. Yanning stage souls are not common on soul refining peak. There are only 2 or 3 in a year. In the past, once a Yanjing soul was discovered, several disciples with strong cultivation on soul refining peak would compete to grab it. Duo Dongjian's words made Wanglin's heart flutter. The disciple who had drawn the broken wind had obviously drawn the raw soul for the method of refining streamers. Wanglin was determined to study the draw-breaking jade slip. In addition, he had mastered one of the divine abilities in the soul-refining jade slip, Soul Shan. This technique could absorb souls on a large scale. With a wave of Wanglin's right hand, the soul spin dissipated and a soul streamer appeared in his hand. With a single dance, a large number of souls were absorbed into it. Duo Dongjian's face was ugly. With a hint of bitterness, the soul streamer that was collected over several years of hard work was forcibly taken away like this. With a dark sigh, Duo Dongjian could only smile bitterly. This is the rules of the soul refining sect. He originally came here to snatch Wanlin's soul streamer, and now that he failed, although he feels bitter, he can only sigh. Cupping his fist at Wanglin, Duo Dongjian left without a trace. Wanglin integrated the acquired cause soul into the soul streamer and started a fight with the original master soul, and the winner would become the new master soul. At this time, Shu Yun and Li Wei requested to stay because they coveted the safe environment of Wanglin's cave, but he coldly refused. Just as he was about to expel them, a green shadow floated up to him, and it was Liu Mei. Willow Eyebrows smiled with deep meaning. Inform Wanglin of the impending catastrophe and persuade him to leave the Vermilion Bird Star. He confessed. His master is Vermilion Bird Star's #1 person, Vermilion Bird Z, and he mentioned Red Butterfly has been killed by his senior brother. Wanglin instantly realized that his battle with Red Butterfly was nothing more than a beast fight in the eyes of others. Willow Eyebrows let out a deep sigh. Inform Wanglin that his mission is to make his Tao heart leave behind his own silhouette, and the 1,000 illusions emotionless Tao he cultivated caused him to be emotionless in his heart, but his appearance is full of emotions. As he left, his heart was complicated but hidden extremely deeply. Wanglin watched Willow Eyebrows leave and was filled with thoughts. He perceived, although Liu Mei's manifestation is emotional, it hides the heartless Wei within. He then drove the unconscious Xu Yun and Liu Rei 100 feet away from the cave. But in an instant, he noticed the contrast in their expressions, the qualities of being rigid on the outside and soft on the inside versus being soft on the outside and rigid on the inside, which enlightened him. He smiled coldly as he looked in Liu Mei's faraway direction. Finally, I understand the source of that strange feeling. All of Liu Mei's displays of emotion are in fact meant to cover up the true heartless Wei deep within. Wanglin's gaze was icy cold as he watched Willow Eyebrows disappear. He was wary in his heart. Liu Mei's cultivation is unfathomable and obviously higher than his own. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to become Vermilion Bird D's disciple. However, his purpose for approaching himself is puzzling. After a little contemplation, Wanglin returned to his cave and sat down on his knees, deciding to focus on recovering his Yuan Shen. The recovery of the Yuan Shen required a stronger spiritual pressure to envelop him, so his figure flashed to the depths of the spirit vein of soul-refining peak. Wanglin sat on his knees and felt the convergence of spiritual pressure around him. Closing his eyes and concentrating on borrowing the spiritual pressure to squeeze his Yuan Shen and accelerate his recovery. Time passed. Yun and Liu Wei woke up and realized that they hadn't been moved out of the scope of the cave, so they built a small cave to cultivate in the same place. One day, Wanglin was fully recovering his Yuan Shen when he suddenly opened his eyes, feeling that his Yuan Shen had significantly improved, and there were only 2 T-marks left on his face. His divine sense swept towards the golden soul streamer 300 feet away and found a shadow appearing, triggering the roar of the unicorn demonic beast within the soul streamer. This shadow was none other than soul-refining peak Grand Elder Wudachi. He attempted to refine the soul streamer, but was suppressed by the demonic beast. Wudachi sacrificed the 10,000 soul streamer and engaged in a fierce battle with the demonic beast. He used the blood sacrifice technique to enhance his soul power. But the demonic beast summoned a second unicorn, demonic beast, with the power of the golden soul streamer, putting Wudachi in a difficult position. Though he uses the Locking God spirit borrowed from the Locking God peak to trap the 2 demonic beasts, the golden soul streamer once again surges with black aura. The 3rd unicorn appears. Wudachi was undefeated and was about to give up when a powerful divine sense descended, making it impossible for him to resist. Wanglin appeared and easily suppressed the 3 Gryphon demonic beasts and used the black chi to condense his spear to crush them. After the unicorn demonic beasts collapsed, an even stronger golden aura surged within the golden soul streamer and all the souls merged into it, condensing into a solid unicorn that emitted a golden aura. Wudachi was seriously injured and unconscious due to the force of the recoil, and Wanglin took away his soul streamer and the spirit of the god-locking streamer. Gazing at the golden Gryphon, he realized, this is the true main soul of the golden soul streamer, and the demonic beast from before was just an attached soul. The golden Sealan's entire body emitted golden light and was incredibly powerful as it confronted Wanglin in the depths of the soul-refining peak with the atmosphere of swords drawn. In the depths of soul-refining peak, Wanglin encountered a golden unicorn remnant soul. The appearance of this unicorn beast was almost identical to Marquis Ling Tian's unicorn from the Immortal realm back then. Only the color was different, but the aura was far less powerful than Marquis Ling Tian's unicorn. Wanglin thought, this is the remnant soul of a griffin. Although it's not as strong as a living creature, it has retained its inherited memories and is capable of casting spells. The Kirin beast was the first to strike, and the golden ball of light coalesced and molded to violently slam into Wanglin. Wanglin grabbed through the air and summoned a black lance to meet it. The two collided instantly, and the disc turned into golden awns that dispersed and dissipated. Wanglin gazed at the observation, found that this residual soul is not as powerful as a living thing, but because of the inheritance of memories has a danger that cannot be underestimated. Wanglin then took out two bells with the intention of sealing the unicorn. However, the unicorn beast violently stepped on the earthquake, shattered the surrounding spiritual veins. The bell's attack was forced to suspend. Wanglin snorted coldly, and the spear in his hand suddenly turned black and stabbed the remnants of the Kilin's soul, releasing a large number of souls. Unfortunately, these souls were quickly reabsorbed by the griffin, and the two sides were locked in a fierce battle for souls. Wanglin quickly laid down a soul spin while sealing the Kirin's doppelganger with a restriction, and eventually put it into the bell. Even though the clang was suppressed, it still continued to release soul spirits. Wanglin gradually weakened its power by absorbing some of the soul spirit with the help of the soul shran. He held a powerful sail and summoned countless black lances to stab at the Kirin, and even though the other party resisted with a golden mass of light, they were still stabbed by some of the lances, and their souls scattered one after another. The silhouette of the griffin attracted Wanglin's chariot soul beast, which was in a weakened state, but after seeing the remnants of the griffin's soul, its greed arose and it took the initiative to attack. The two fought fiercely, and the griffin was sent flying, with a large number of souls once again scattered and absorbed by the soul shwan. The silhouette of the Kirin grew dimmer and dimmer, showing its defeat. While the Kilin was being knocked back, Wanglin found a golden soul streamer. He quickly stepped forward and took it down, and used his heart, soul, and blood sacrifice to completely control it. At this moment, the remnant soul of the griffin attempted to counterattack, but it was forced to retreat by the soul beast, and was eventually subdued by Wanglin with the soul streamer. The main spirit of the Kilin transformed into golden light and flew into the soul streamer, sealing it completely. However, the soul beast roared in anger at the loss of the Kilin and turned to attack Wanglin. Wanglin calmly responded by using the chains on the chariot to seal the soul beast again, and then put it into the storage bag after it was completely sealed in the beast-repellent circle. After completing this, Wanglin appeared at the top of Soul Refining Peak. The black gas in the sky above the peak caused the disciples of the Soul Refining sect to be shocked. Wanglin detected abnormalities, especially the 2 blood rings behind the 9 gold rings. Vaguely a vicissitude and kind gaze flashed from within the blood rings. He murmured in a low voice, "Interesting." Then he fell into deep thought. A moment later, Wanglin's gaze was firm, and he decided not to stay with the Soul Refining sect, but to seek an opportunity to restore his Yuanshan. His goal was to lock onto the Drawing Spirit Peak, and his figure turned into streams of light and flew away. A woman in the corner watched Wanglin leave and sighed softly to herself, "Recovering so quickly, but I've never been able to see through his Dao heart. Senior brother Wan, what exactly is your Dao heart?" Wanglin descended into the Prana Drawing Peak and found a cave with a sweep of his divine sense. Su Jin inside the cave opened his eyes, and his face showed uneasiness when he saw Wanglin, who suddenly appeared. Wanglin calmly opened his mouth. "Do you have a prana drawing jade slip?" Although Su Jin didn't recognize Wanglin, he judged from his clothes that he was a soul refining peak person and agreed to exchange jade slips, but the condition was to provide 300 dead souls. Wanglin didn't bother to grab it, took out the 1,000-soul streamer, and shook out 300 souls, refining them into black beads and tossing them to Su Jin. Su Jin cheerfully handed over the purplish-red jade slip and asked, "How do you call your senior brother, Qiu Mu?" Wanglin took the jade slip, and with a sweep of his divine sense, he confirmed that it recorded the essence of the art of extracting the soul. This art contains three major aptitudes, namely, locking the spirit, attracting the soul, and the four strands, of which the four strands, Sujin reminded, the god-locking peak has the god-locking jade slip, as it is exclusive to the god-transforming ancestor. Wanglin nodded and left to personally verify what Sujin said. After exploring the depths of the spirit veins of the two peaks, he retrieved only one side of the not very powerful can be wielded at the god-locking peak. After completing this, Wang Ying gazed at the 9 golden rings and 2 blood rings over the 3 peaks, and his heart became more determined. He decided to challenge the soul refining sect's infant transformation powerhouse and use the pressure as an opportunity to restore his Yuan Shen. Holding 100,000 golden soul streamers and 999 sets of forbidden streamers, Wanglin charged straight at the 9 golden rings. The soul streamers were incredibly powerful, and the golden unicorn roared out, leading countless souls to charge the golden rings. After the loud noise, the 9 golden rings transformed into 9 transformed spirit cultivators, shocked at the power of the Qilin. And Wanglin was already standing on top of the griffin's head, his aura overpowering. A woman at the early stage of god transformation wanted to make a move, but she was shaken back by Wanglin's angry shout and her face turned pale. She forced down her anger and sneered. Wanglin calmly spoke, "You and the other 9 people make way." The green-robed old man snorted coldly and cast a chain spell to attack Wanglin. Wanglin waved his power sail, and his power key condensed into a black lance that shattered the chain and counterattacked the old man, while the soul streamer summoned 100,000 souls to form a huge hurricane that swept through the soul refining sect. Right at this moment, an old voice came out from the blood ring. "Little friend, the old man has been waiting for you for a long time." A figure wearing a turquoise-colored robe slowly appeared. His pace was calm. His robe was wide and swung with his figure. His aura was extraordinary. This person's face was gray, and his eyes were as bright as the white moon. He glanced at Wanglin and waved his hand as the 9 goddess of transformation cultivators respectfully retreated and disappeared without a trace. Wanglin's gaze flickered, and his battle intent flared up, although he couldn't see through the old man's cultivation. He was sure that the other party was an infant transformation powerhouse. The old man opened his mouth and said, "Little friend Zheng Yu, the old man has been waiting for this day for 2 years. He had a strange gaze, and it was obvious that he had already known Wanglin's identity." Then he turned around and pointed at Soul Refining Peak, and his tone suddenly changed to a murderous tone. "Junior Liu Mei, get out of the soul refining sect within 10,000 miles within 10 breaths, or else I will kill you." Liu Mei faced Chu-Chu attitude, trying to teach her orders politely persuade, but the old man coldly responded, "The voice of the Taoist art is approaching, and the 3 Jian soul streamers summoned at the time of the next West will suddenly increase in pressure." Liu Mei's complexion changed greatly, exclaiming, 1 billion soul streamers. In the end, he didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly left. The old man turned to Wanglin and smiled. "Little friend Xinyu, how about this thin gift?" Wanglin was wary in his heart and understood that the old man's move indicated that the break between the soul refining sect and the Vermilion Bird Kingdom was all due to himself, and that this thin gift was actually profound. The old man smiled frankly and said that he was not afraid of the Vermilion Bird Country. He then changed his mind and gave a second gift. He pressured Wanglin with a powerful spiritual might to help his Yuan Shen recover, and the wave of pressure was stronger than the wave until he mobilized his immortal power. The Yuan Shen fragments in Wanlin's body quickly fused, and his cultivation recovered to the middle stage of transformation spirit, or even further. Wanglin cupped his fists at the old man and thanked him, but the old man laughed. "It's too early to thank me." He offered a third gift, wishing Wanglin a breakthrough to the peak of the late harmonization spirit stage. The old man summoned the soul refining sect's greatest treasure, the 1 billion Zun Soul streamer, and explained that this streamer was the root of the soul refining sect and contained countless infant transformation cultivator souls. He ordered Wanglin to sit on his knees, and the 10 purple gold souls surrounded him, injecting a steady stream of dense spiritual energy into Wanglin's body. The spiritual energy skyrocketed a staggering 8 times and still didn't stop. The old man's gaze was deep, and he said in a low voice, "Zenyu, remember the old man's name, Don Tian, suck as much as you can. The old man will never be stingy." When Wanlin was sensing the surge in spiritual energy, the words Don Tian came to his ears, and his eyes slightly condensed, so he didn't have time to think deeply and focused on the flow of spiritual energy. The majestic spiritual energy from the 10 purple gold souls surged madly into his meridians and traveled throughout his body. He felt his pores open, and the turbidity was quickly forced out, and his entire body felt like a spring breeze off the dust. A few moments later, Wanglin realized that the spiritual energy in his body was saturated and could not be absorbed anymore. And although his cultivation still remained in the middle stage of the God of Transformation, realm of intent, his spiritual energy had already broken through to the late stage of the God of Transformation, and he had become a great aptitude. With the power of the powerful realm of intent, his strength was even better than in the past at this moment. And if he met the red butterfly, the victory or defeat would be without a doubt. Wanglin's gaze was deep in thought, surrounded by purple and gold souls. Don Tianfu laughed aloud and said, "Zun Yu, little friend, this third big gift can still be satisfied." Wanglin was silent for a little while, knowing that the gift from Tun Tian must have a deeper meaning, but since he had accepted it, there was no reason to back out. His gaze was calm as he asked, "Senior, I can take as much as I can suck, right?" Don Tian nodded his head and promised. Wanglin closed his eyes and said in his heart, "Honored one." The original body that was far away in Chu instantly opened its eyes, and the purple star point in the center of its brow spun rapidly. Although there was no primary or secondary between the principal and the doppelganger, the principal's ability to cultivate the ancient god skill to absorb spiritual energy was far superior to the doppelganger. Through the strange connection, the majestic spiritual energy surged madly into the body of this father, with the doppelganger as the pivot. As the original absorbed it, golden light emanated from his body, eventually transforming into a huge crystal jade slip wrapped around his entire body, and the number of star points in the center of his eyebrows increased with it. The purple and gold souls around the split were pulled by the powerful suction. The purple and gold rays suddenly thickened, and the spiritual energy surged like a tide. Don Tian saw the face suddenly changed, heart dark pain, but because of the previous bold words cannot back out, can only sigh. In just a few moments, the spiritual energy of the 10 purple and gold souls was nearly depleted. Don Tian sighed darkly. Wanglin's doppelganger joining forces with his father is really extraordinary. The cultivation level of the principal body within the jade simplicity steadily increased while the doppelganger opened its eyes at the right time to stop absorbing. Don Tian was relieved and waved his hand to retrieve the purple gold soul and smiled bitterly. "Little friend Zenyu, you're really ungracious." Wanglin got up, feeling the surging spiritual energy in his body. His eyes looked away from the snowy kingdom, and a cold aura flickered in his eyes. He had an extreme personality and had always been vindictive, and at this moment there was already a calculation in his heart. He turned around and cupped his fists and solemnly said, "Many thanks to seniors for the 3 generous gifts. If there is a dispatch despite the command, juniors will certainly do their best." Don Tian smiled with relief in his heart as he heard the words and lamented, "The old man is giving you 3 gifts, and what he is plotting is great. If you hadn't arrived at the soul refining sect, I would have planned to personally seek you out." Wanglin's gaze flickered, and he laughed. I heard rumors that because I beheaded a spirit refining sect's spirit transformation cultivator, Senior wants to seek me out to ask for punishment. Dun Tian shook his head and laughed. It's just an excuse to cover people's ears. If there is no reason to seek, it will inevitably be noticeable. So it is more reasonable to let the wind out. Then Tung Tian's words changed, mentioning the pattern of the vermilion bird star. Does little friend Xingnu know why the vermilion bird kingdom has ruled for many years, yet there are only less than 10 level 5 cultivation states? He asked himself. Back then, the vermilion bird country was composed of 6 major sects, and the core disciples of the 6 sects formed a country of their own, becoming the earliest level 5 cultivation country. However, whenever a rank 5 cultivation country was close to breaking through to rank 6, it would be suppressed by the vermilion bird country and was never allowed to surpass it. The soul refining sect's 3 near breakthroughs were all ruined, and now it has been reduced to a fringe sect of a rank 5 cultivation country. Dun Tian sighed as he recalled the splendor and decline of the soul refining sect, bluntly stating that it had been the dream of all generations to advance to a rank 6 cultivation country. However, the vermilion bird country had always not allowed any country to be promoted due to its declining strength and fear of a level 5 cultivation country turning against it. Wanglin was silent for a moment and asked, "What does what Senior said have to do with Senior? Senior is just a god transformation stage cultivator." Dun Tian's gaze was heavy as he slowly said, "It's relevant because you're one of the 4 vermilion bird heirs chosen by the Cloud Sparrow Sun." Wanglin frowned slightly, and when he heard the name, Cloudbird Z, Dun Tian took out the wooden carving. It was exactly what Wanglin had carved for the old man in the straw hat back then. Dun Tian explained, "Lark's is Vermilion Bird's senior brother, and you're getting attention because of him." Wanglin looked odd and asked, "Is that why Senior sent me 3 great gifts?" Dun Tian replied, "Only part of it." His gaze was deep as if he had a hidden agenda. Dun Tian said frankly that even if the lark sends a message, if he does not like it, he can expel Willow Eyebrows. There is no need to offer a follow-up gift. He also mentioned in the history of the soul refining sect, there were 36 infant transformation cultivators whose souls were sealed in soul streamers. And I am the 37th Dun Tian senior brother. The 36th infant transformation cultivator died 2 years ago when his lifespan was exhausted. On his deathbed, he foresaw the intention to find a future path for the clan, but failed to do so. However, just moments after his senior brother's death, Wanglin happened to appear outside the soul refining sect's mountain gate. This coincidence made Dun Tian choose to gamble everything. Dun Tian confessed, "I am nearing the end of my lifespan and the soul refining sect has no one to succeed me. If I die, the sect will be destroyed and the soul streamer will fall into the hands of the vermilion bird. I want Wanglin to worship the soul refining sect and become the next success." Dun Tian handed Wanglin the soul refining sect's core technique, the God-locking technique, and declared him the only core disciple of the sect. Afterwards, Dun Tian closed the door to prepare, while Wanglin left the soul refining sect to embark on his journey. During the night, Wanglin didn't fully believe in Dun Tian's words and decided to use time to verify his promise, while at the same time igniting the flame of revenge. The pursuit 2 years ago nearly killed him, and now that his cultivation has been restored, his primary target is Li Yuanfeng of the Snowy Kingdom. A month later, Wanglin came to the Chu Valley to reunite with his old friends Zhou Ru Tian and Xiao Bai. Zhou Ru's naive and joyful welcome. Tai Yan's cultivation is close to the God of Transformation by Wanglin's instructions to go to the capital city of Chu to realize life. Wanglin promises to take Zhou Ru away and find him a big tiger as a pet. He then puts Zhou Ru and Xiao Bai into a pagoda and continues his journey. In the valley, Wanglin summons his true self to come out. His original body broke out of its cocoon and fused with his bilocation, and the real Wanglin appeared. his original body refining split body cultivated within, forming a powerful pressure that changed the color of heaven and earth. In the screen, he looked away from the snow country like a demon god and revealed his killing intent. Vowed to take revenge on Li Yuanfeng, the old ancestor of the giant demon clan Sun Te, and the others. Returning strongly, he would definitely settle the grudges of that year. At this moment, the real Wanglin set out on the road of revenge and rise with determination